What's up, guys? Rogue9 here, and welcome to the Hot Breach podcast. Thank you so much for your patience. It has been over 2 weeks now since our last episode. We missed last one at very short notice, sadly, and I mean, I don't feel too bad about it. It's been it's been almost a year that we've been running these. I think this is now episode 40. So that's 40 weeks, and we've literally made pretty much every week except the ones where we're all traveling to sort of Rainbow Six events. So we've been quite good so far, and if we miss one a year, that's okay by me. With me as always, Prodigio Pete and Get Flanked. How's it going, guys?
Great.
Very good, very good. Glad to be back.
I missed your ugly faces.
I'll take that. I think that's mostly directed at Pete, but anywho, let me tell you what we have for today. So there's so much to discuss, really. We have brand new news out basically yesterday that the Pro League Final Season 10 tickets are already available, not for sale, but for pre-registration before they go on sale. So we'll talk about that briefly. We've got a free weekend for Rainbow Six coming up this weekend. And also, there's been some news about what will happen to Rainbow Six once the new consoles launch. So we'll talk about that a little bit as well. Then we've had the top issues and concerns press release quite a while ago, but we've not chatted about that yet, so we'll have that. Get Flanked's been playing Battalion 9044 and wants to talk about that briefly. And then we have quite a bit of Pro League news. We've had relegations, so we'll talk about the teams that are the new teams that are coming into Pro League, the ones that are leaving before the new season. And then there's been quite a lot of transfers recently and a couple of new teams formed that we will be talking about. But before we get into that, a quick word from our sponsor FanFit Gaming today. We'll play you a quick video and we'll see you in a little bit. This episode is brought to you by FanFit Gaming, the officially licensed provider of Rainbow Six Siege fan merchandise. In their Six collection, they offer a range of extra-large metal and enamel Rainbow Six operator pins, sized 4 cm by 4 cm or around 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches. And even cooler than the pins is the Rainbow Six themed neon light. You should check out what they have to offer at fanfitgaming.com/ref, that's REF/hotbreach. If you're listening to the audio version of the podcast or watching on YouTube, you will also be able to find a reminder to this link in the description. Using this link helps out the podcast, and if you use the code HOTBREACH at checkout, you will receive a 10% discount. So if you're in the market for some cool pins or an even cooler light, go check out FanFit Gaming.
Okay.
And we're back.
The pleasures of a live broadcast.
Yes, when that's not all synced up. So here's some of the ones that FanFit have kindly sent me. I think, Frank, you have the light near you.
Yeah.
So yep. Many thanks to FanFit Gaming for sponsoring the episode. Oh, look at that. Isn't that beautiful? So yeah, if you want to check those out, links will be below if you're on YouTube and also in the audio version.
I need to put it in like a shelf or something and keep it here like all the time.
I think that would be pretty cool.
It would look cool.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. All right.
So let's talk a little bit about Rainbow Six news. So as I mentioned, the Pro League Finals number 10 have been announced for Tokoname in Japan, and there is a pre-sales application open now. Let me show you that on stream. 1 second, here we go. So basically, as of right now, you can apply to register for the tickets that have not gone on sale yet. It's quite early, like we're more than 6 months away, literally, from this finals taking place, but they're getting ahead of the curve here. It's a little bit interesting, a little bit different than usual, and I have this suspicion that this might be linked to the local laws in Japan, because we get 3 different types of tickets this time, rather than the usual 2 tickets. So we've got the standard ticket, which is a 2-day standard pass, which costs about 28 euros or 3,500 yen, and it's for attendees that are 16 years or older. Then we have the Diamond Pass, which we're also used to. It's about 68 euros or 7,500 yen, and that comes with all the added benefits of a dedicated entrance, a dedicated line to the Ubisoft store on the premises, and premium seating, and also an exclusive t-shirt. Yay. But then
I
in
need the
between,
OAP ticket.
in between, we get a new 2-day pass, which is the 2-day recruit pass plus Guardian. So basically, if you're if you're 15, so if you've turned 15 but you're not 16 yet, there is an obligation for a Guardian to accompany you. The press release calls it a legal representative, which to me is a lawyer, but never mind. It probably refers to your parents or any kind of legal guardian who can take charge of you. And because of that, you get a discounted entry for both tickets, which is only 5,000 yen or 45 euros instead of sort of the 7,000 yen you would normally have to pay for 2 tickets. So if you're that very specific age range, you're 15 because you have to be at least 15, but you're not yet 16 and you need a guardian, there's a discounted ticket for you. So if you're looking forward to going to that, if you want to make sure that you get your ticket, there is a pre-registration open now.
I wonder if they're kind of doing this so early just to gauge the amount of interest that they're going to have. Does it say what where the event center is?
I think it does actually. Yes, it does. So this will be at the Aichi Sky Expo in Tokoname, Japan.
Okay.
So we actually have an event before this one rolls around, right? We have the major,
Yes.
which is in the United States over the course of the summer. I'm not even sure what month that is just yet.
It'll be August, I think.
Right. But I seem to remember, didn't the tickets, the Milan one, didn't they go on sale kind of late or?
No, they went early and they sold out really quick.
Oh,
it wasn't this early, but they went on sale and it was like gone.
Mm-hmm.
And then I think they sold more tickets after that or something. I don't know.
Yes, they did later sell a few more. And yes, exactly that. When they went on sale, by the time most people noticed, they'd already sold out because it was a relatively small venue in Milan. So maybe this is sort of just to ensure that we don't have that issue. There's a chance now for people to register, and then you have a chance to buy those tickets guaranteed rather than missing out potentially, I think.
I suppose it is the first proper Pro League event in Asia, right?
Yeah, the first international one.
They've had their regional bits and pieces, but they haven't had an event over there yet.
Yeah, so that is that. Over to the next topic, and that is the press release from Ubisoft about the top issues and community concerns. And I think this is, we've not had a chance to talk about this yet, but it's actually quite a cool thing for them to sort of put out, for them to sort of give us information on, because normally, I mean, whenever any kind of issues or concerns happen, there's a lot of noise on Twitter, and then sometimes there's a tweet from the official Ubisoft account or the Rainbow Six account, but we don't really ever get like a full summary from the developers of this is how we're addressing everything that is wrong with the game right now. So let's look at the top issues. This obviously has been in the game for a while now. There have been 3 exploits: the Clash exploit, deployable shield exploit, and an IQ exploit. So basically with Clash, I think if you managed to glitch the character, you were able to deploy the shield and still shoot, which makes you very hard to kill, and yeah, it's a massive cheat. Very similar with the deployable shield exploit. This is something we've kind of seen before, where if you do the right things in the right order, you're basically carrying a fully deployed shield from the hip upwards. It covers your face and your complete upper body, and you can still shoot through it, which is pretty nasty. And then with IQ, there was also an exploit that made her invisible, I believe. And the way that these have been dealt with so far is that for the first time ever, we've seen Ubisoft basically pull the lever on these sort of emergency off switches that they put into the game quite a while ago, which basically allows them to just turn off certain gadgets and turn off certain operators if there is a problem with them. And yeah, this is the first time there is no ETA on when the fix will be finished, and I believe, like from some of the things we've heard since then, I don't think they'll be finished for the release of the new season, right?
That's true, because the 2 new operators are having temporary secondary gadgets in replace of the ones they've got. for the start of the new season, which will of course return once those gadgets have been fixed. So obviously that would suggest, quite clearly that it's not going to be ready for the start of the new season. So there's something big going on behind the scenes here. I just want to make a comment, if you don't mind, just on this website, and just the concept behind it, I think is brilliant. Because obviously people do take to Twitter and Reddit to complain about these things, and rightly so. You're a paying customer, and if it isn't working, you've got every right to complain about that. Obviously, there are ways of doing it, right? But to actually put together this site with the top community concerns and top issues and continually update it, I think is a stroke of genius. I mean, it's so obvious. Like, why didn't they do it before? But the fact that they have done that now, I think, is brilliant.
Yeah, and I agree it was the right decision to remove the Claymore from IQ, and how they did that, like removing stuff from the game was the right decision. However, extremely disappointing that this isn't going to be fixed by the new season. And let's be honest, if they wouldn't have, let's say that this game-breaking bug is still in the game. Do you really think the new season that they wouldn't have fixed it before the new season? Do you think that them turning this off gave them a little bit of breathing room? And now it could be a case where before they would have just slapped a Band-Aid on it, and now they're really going to fix it. Because let's be real here, the deployable shield might as well be a legacy bug in this game. That has popped its head into this game multiple times over the course of the last 3 years. So maybe it is a case of we've had issues like this with shields before as well, with like Clash. Remember, Monty could do the same thing for a period of time. So it could be a thing where these issues are deeply rooted within the foundation of the game. And before they just slap Band-Aids on them, and now they're actually going to fix them from the ground up. And that's why it's taking longer. But yeah, I mean, there's no other way to saying it. It's disappointing that the new season is going to be rolled out without a fix. And I still agree that it was the right decision to remove them, but I hope that this isn't just being used by them to, I don't know, to take longer to fix these issues than they normally would.
Yeah,
and I'm sure it isn't. You're spot on with that point. Like, it's super disappointing to launch a new season. This has been going on now for 4 or 5 weeks. It's been bloody ages since that Claymore was taken out. And can we also say that a whole new meta has evolved, jumping out? Do you know what I mean? It's actually having a really detrimental effect to remove the secondary gadget.
Nomad's pick rate went
I'm a Nomad main now. Yeah. Jesus. Sorry, Rogue.
Yeah, no.
I was going to say something.
Yeah, my point was that I think maybe part of the reason might also have been that we had basically an overlap of an update going live that came with a whole bunch of problems, first of all, and then it's so close to the release of the new season that that's where the breaking point was. That first of all, the number and severity of exploits that all popped up at the same time, regrettably, again, and like you mentioned, exploits that we're almost aware of and used to by now that somehow just keep coming back. But then also gearing up for the new release, and here we go suddenly with new issues, and that might also, at least in my opinion, be a reason as to why they've now gone to the decision to basically turn these items off, turn these characters off, and make sure that at least for the time being the game stays playable, as long as it takes to fix, I guess, at least.
Yeah, and I guess I'll say this. If what I said about the problems being deep rooted and they're actually going to fully fix them this time instead of slapping a Band-Aid, if we never see the deployable shield glitch in this game ever again, then in my opinion, it'll be fully worth it that they aren't ready to be, fixed by the time the new season rolls out. If we see this bug pop up again, though, then that's a whole different conversation. But hopefully that's what's happening here, is they're fixing them once and for all, and it's taking a little bit longer.
Hopefully, yes.
Do you think... Yeah. Sorry, I was just thinking, because we're getting a new deployable shields later this season, aren't we? And I wonder if that... Well...
It's not fully... it's not fully confirmed when. Probably, possibly mid-season. But right. Yeah... So do you think that brought it back? I don't know. I have no clue.
Yeah, it maybe works different mechanically in the game. So like they've coded it and then they're like, maybe we just wait for that to come along and that will solve the problem. And we never have to really fix the issue with the old shield. I don't know.
The website that you originally talked about, though, I agree with you guys both saying that's a really good change. I think it'll allow, it's kind of like a quick reaction force, to use a military term there, that this is, the dev blog is kind of like the big picture, like items. And that's like, weeks go into the planning for those releases. But this to me seems like a more of a quick reaction thing. Like, hey, this popped up. We're aware of it. This is what we're doing to try and fix it without having to go through the full dev blog post.
That's half the issue, because some people obviously feel as though, maybe they're not listening or they're not aware or they don't care. But that website obviously allows them to convey that they're aware of the issue and working on it. Like today, we were all copied into a tweet where people were saying like drop shotting is back in the TTS.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a perfect example of that. And then Rainbow Six official Twitter immediately responds and says, yep, we're aware of it and we're sorting it out. And it just nailed that issue straight away. But, like if someone hadn't been on Twitter to send that and they were just playing the game, they thought, so we're going to be drop shotting again, because you can do that in the TTS. So it's a perfect example.
Mm-hmm.
That's so odd as well that a mechanic that's been turned off and mitigated for seasons now somehow just crawls back in. It's just how and why is there?
I reckon there's a dev out there that loves drop shotting and he's just pressed a little button.
What happened? I know exactly what happened. See, what they do whenever they create the new seasons, they copy and paste a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm sure that like whenever they copied and pasted the code, they just skipped a line. And that line had to do with the drop shotting line. And now that line doesn't exist. So drop shotting's back in the game. It was just a simple copy and paste error.
That's new build is based on an older one that still had it in, and there's just the ones in between that somehow haven't made it in. I don't know. I mean,
I'm joking about the copy and paste thing for anybody who's watching that might take me seriously. I'm joking. It's way more complicated than that, I'm sure.
Probably. Let's talk about some of the other issues that are getting dealt with. So the leaning death cam replay. That's been a problem basically this entire season, ever since they made the change to the leaning. There's a problem where if you're leaning and someone kills you, then you get a replay that looks where you're not even on screen. That looks completely suspicious. It's total nonsense. And it's been frustrating a lot of people. Well, here's the official response to that. So that is getting fixed. And it should already be on the test server. I haven't looked for it specifically, but according to the post, it is.
The death cam's not the problem. The death cam doesn't matter. All that does, okay. The death cam, only thing that's going to do is just make you feel like you got ripped off because it's not showing you what actually happened. But it's not going to be the cause of your death. The real issue is the perspective issue that was changed with the leaning. That actually is causing you to die. And I at this point, I have, I think 6 clips saved from where it's happened to me, where I die to somebody who can clearly see me, but I cannot see them. And that's a real problem. Like I've got a clip from the other day where I was in the middle of a doorway. And when you watch this kill cam, now granted, the kill cams are out of sync. I get that. But when you watch this kill cam, this person can see my entire body. And when you go back to my perspective, I can't see them at all. Like I can't see a pixel of their body. Only thing I can see are the tracers coming at me and hitting me. But when on the kill cam, from their perspective, they could see my entire body. And that is the real problem. Like the kill cam aspect does need to be fixed because that's gonna cause people to rage and just feel like they got ripped off. But that perspective issue is a real problem right now.
I mean, I don't think you can call it an issue because it was a purposeful choice, right? It's a choice. Well, it's a change in the mechanic.
It was a purposeful choice to change the leaning mechanics.
Yeah.
Did they know that it was going to cause these perspective issues?
In fact, it's the other way around. So they fixed the leaning, and the godly noob tested it immediately and tweeted that it was that there was a horrible problem with it, and that you could exploit it by sort of gently leaning, and then you could see someone before they could see you. So in order to fix that problem, they changed how the camera works. So prior to the last season, your camera is in the middle of your forehead when you're playing Rainbow Six Siege, and what we had beforehand throughout the entirety of the game is when you lean, your camera moves out to the side of your head so that you can basically see without exposing half your head. But because of the issue that was discovered with the new leaning mechanic, they changed the camera so that it no longer shifts. So you lean, but your camera stays in the middle of your forehead, which then means that you can expose almost half of your head without actually seeing around the corner yet. So what actually happened was that it was a fix to a problem discovered by Godly Noob because of the change they made. So there's that story.
But
so it is a purposeful choice.
That does make sense.
Yeah.
What's happening is whenever I'm leaning around a corner, if somebody else is holding an angle on said corner, they will see me before I see them because that camera is not on the edge of my head. It's in the middle.
Yep.
That makes complete sense.
Yep.
You need to learn to lean the wrong way. That'll fix it. I'm kidding. You're seriously considering that statement.
I think the real way of mitigating it is making sure you keep as much distance as possible to your cover, because the closer you are, the more you're going to expose before you see. The further away you are, the narrower that sort of deadly zone where you're exposing yourself without seeing. So as far back as possible is one way of dealing with it and being aware of it, if that makes sense. Other things that have been changed, vaulting onto black mirrors is apparently a thing. So that's been addressed and should already be on the test server. Goo mine, forcing the hostage into prevent revive mode. So that was basically an exploit that if you were on the defender side, you could use goo mines to down the hostage in the prep phase, and it would somehow register like as if the attackers had downed the hostage. So there was that. That's also already targeted to be fixed on the test server. Vaulting onto the purple tarps of coastline. Now that is interesting because they put it here under exploits, and they put it so that they claim they're fixing it, and that again it should be fixed on the test server right now. But vaulting onto purple tarps on coastline has become a strategy, really, and certainly in Pro League we see that an awful lot. Having a player out there looking into the hookah room there, providing cover, that's become completely normal, and I wonder almost if that is maybe if categorizing it as an exploit is maybe a bit too harsh, because it's kind of just a tactic that works both ways as well. It's not like you're invincible out there or you have some kind of angle that can't be countered. You can be countered from there.
I think it's a bit of an unbalanced position, though. I think that's... I think the point was, though, because there's been multiple ways of getting there, and it's always been permitted in Pro League, because obviously you can go back and watch various VODs of players getting on there. So I always held the same opinion as you, that it's kind of fair game because you can do it and other people can do it to you. But I suppose the game for most people isn't the Pro League. And so if you find a way to get somewhere that requires a certain set of movements or behaviors to get there that perhaps isn't widely known by the rest of the community, then it is an exploit, right? Because you had to get up on that wall, run along that wall. I remember at one point you had to go over that little fence by running and vaulting, and
the bottom line is it's not intended. I mean, that's the simplest way to say it. It's an unintended line of sight, and it's extremely strong.
Yeah.
With that said, anybody can do it, but I understand them trying to fix it.
Anyone can do it if you know the trick, because the point is, it's not as though you go below it and there's a vault button, like a rappel button. There's not. You have to do these things that are kind of like very niche kind of knowledge of the game.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, okay, I admit if it's like a really powerful position that they don't want in the game, then fair enough. But as for an expert, I mean, as for not being intended, I mean, bandit tricking wasn't intended, and that's become a thing now. So I don't think not intended is enough of a reason by itself, but fair enough if it's too powerful.
No. That's a really fair point because, obviously, the community can discover these tactics themselves, and you would if the devs went and removed Bandit Trick, and you'd be like, "Hey, you've actually removed a really kind of cool aspect of the game." So I would say if they're going to keep it there must be some obvious way of rappelling to that position that everyone will understand. Not someone that's using what is basically considered a glitch to get there. That being said, I've used the position myself, right? So
I would say
on the knuckles.
I would say bandit tricking was undiscovered, and that purple tarp is unintended. If you went to the map designer and you said, "Hey, do you want people to be able to be here?" He'd be like, "No, if I did, then I'd put a staircase or I'd put a vault button there." But if you went to the designer of Bandit and said, "Hey, do you want Bandit to be able to destroy thermite charges?" then he may have been like, "Well, I never thought of that." You know what I mean? That. Okay, I guess. You know what I mean? There is a little bit of a difference there. I would say it's splitting hairs. But there could be seen as a difference.
Yeah, I guess the choice could have been made. Okay, let's make this official. It's become a thing. Everyone watches it in every game of Coastline that's on any region in Pro League. It's just a thing. So let's put a vault button or a repel button or a repel prompt and just make it a thing. But the choice has been made to make it not a thing.
Yeah,
Rogue. They've cut this out multiple times before.
Yeah,
there will be another way of getting it back. Trust me.
Well, we'll see how they deal with it. I mean, they could just make the tarp not a surface, so as soon as you touch it, you fall through.
Could be just like lava. You go on that tarp,
you die instantly.
You're a dumbass.
The tarp is lava,
or you get spotted. That would be fun.
Deploying gadgets on Prismas apparently was a thing. I personally have never seen it, and I don't know what the point is. But apparently that's a thing, and also targeted to be fixed for the test server. And sound bugs, so muffled or missing sounds, and various other sound issues primarily on console, are being targeted. So what they say about that is, we are preparing a large batch of audio bug fixes to be deployed at some point during Season 2, but they must all be deployed at the same time, and we have some that are not finalized. That said, we have identified additional standalone bugs and are working on addressing them as well. So yeah, basically there's no ETA on this at all, but they are definitely looking into it. And I think sound over the entire last season has been a bit of an issue.
Flame, did you put a tweet out the other day about a sound issue? Who put a tweet
out the other day? I put one out not too long ago showing 2 examples, which, by the way, both I was able to disclaim both of them. I was able to myth bust both of them. Okay, to a certain degree. So the first clip was Buck throwing a grenade on Outback and T-Hunt. And there was a bug, and this wasn't a sound bug, it was a bug in general, that the first grenade that Buck would throw and T-Hunt on Outback would be inaudible for some reason or another. And I was able to reproduce that several times. It was only in T-Hunt. I couldn't reproduce it in custom games or anything. That seems to be fixed on the TS. I haven't been able to reproduce that on the TS. And I forget what the other thing was, but I think it was actually, I think I went back and watched it, and I did actually get a sound cue that I missed. But anyway.
Suppressed grenades. Future idea. Yeah. Let's look at the next topic, because this whole press release goes on quite a while. This one is called Top Gameplay Topics, and the first one is Smoke Gas Canister Propagation. So the problem here is that smoke gas grenades can clip through walls, and it's become kind of a tactic on certain sites to use that ability to sort of have the smoke go through. And the goal here is to rework it similar to Capital's Firebolt, so that you no longer have the smoke just forming like a bubble that can clip through walls, but that it actively propagates and hits obstacles. Target for this is to get it out during Season 2, so sometime in the coming season.
Rip Necrox is notorious for this trick, so we'll have to see how he adjusts.
There's been a weapon sight alignment issue. For some weapons, the optics can be a few pixels off-center in some situations. So this is actually something that is going to take a little while. We're not going to see this, or the targeted fix for this is Season 3. We've decided to take a pass on all weapons optics to ensure that there is parity between them. As such, this has turned into a much bigger task than initially anticipated. I suppose being a few pixels off is not the end of the world, but really something, we do want to see fixed, I guess.
Mm-hmm. I mean, it's still annoying, it needs to be right, really.
Has it affected either of you in-game at any point?
I never knew it existed until I read that, to be honest with you.
No, but I'm not Beaulo.
Yeah, I never knew it existed, man.
Well, there you go. It's being addressed, which then I suppose if it hasn't affected you yet and it's getting fixed, well, there you go. Shield first-person and third-person mismatch when rotating. This was something that was sort of highlighted by a really cool guy. I forget his name. He makes these YouTube videos where he tests stuff. Really cool stuff. And basically how this worked, and I remember this quite well somehow, is if you're rotating to the left as a shield operator, I believe it was to the left, there was this sort of weird movement where in the first person perspective your movement would be smooth, but in the third person perspective you would sort of jerk like 20 degrees or so, and then the shield would actually move the wrong way until it would suddenly jerk to the next position. And you could have, if you're unlucky and if you weren't moving, if you were stationary, that gave you like a window where you could be like, I don't remember, something like 40 degrees apart from where your first person perspective is looking and the third person. So this is going to be fixed as well. And again, the target for that is during Season 2.
I remember that video.
It's a good one, huh? Joystick sensitivity curve.
Sorry.
The joystick sensitivity curve for controllers is going to be adjusted. We currently have a sensitivity curve for controllers that is not comfortable for all players. So the objective is to provide players with an additional joystick sensitivity option with significantly less acceleration. And again, the target for that is at some point during Season 2. Console players rejoice. Or the small handful of players who play controller on PC, I guess. I tried that for the first time only like last week or so. I just went into a terrorist hunt with Xbox controller on PC, and it was an utter clown show. I don't know how people do it, how people actually go into ranked or casual on PC playing with the controller. Hats off to you. And then the final two topics, which are the top balancing topics. So Glaz is there. We've talked about the Glaz change many times, and he's already on the test server in his current form, and we are fully expecting him to come into the new season in his altered form, so that you no longer basically have the banana vision while moving. And then there's also, again, they mention the adjustment to smoke, not just about the propagation, but also adjusting the damage curve of smoke's gas canisters so that it becomes more of an area denial role. They don't actually say, does it mean making it stronger or weaker? Not quite sure. I expect it probably means making them weaker, that they don't kill you as quickly. Thoughts on that?
I mean,
speculation.
I would speculate. I would say they're not going to make them stronger, but then if you're making them weaker, are you giving people time to plant the diffuser?
Okay. I should have probably just read on because it kind of explains it better. So, some point during Season 2, we are looking to change the damage curve from plateauing over time, so being stable with every tick, to ramping up over time. So, the longer you stay in the gas, the more damage it will do with every tick. This will encourage players to avoid waiting in the gas for too long. There you go. I should have probably just read that rather than speculating.
So you could sort of strafe into there and strafe out and take minimal damage or less damage, but the longer that you're in there, the more effed up you're going to get.
You could also maybe run through it now and do less damage.
Maybe, Or maybe not. Maybe the actual initial damage will be where it is now. So if you go through quickly, you'll take as much damage as it does now. But then it gets even worse if you stay in. Either
that would be a
or.
really big buff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So those are the sort of hot topics that have been addressed. Anything that there stands out to you that you want to comment on before we move on?
I'm good.
Nice. Free weekend this weekend. There is tweets about it. I didn't actually see it on the sort of Ubisoft news site. But yeah.
Tell your friends.
Exactly. Play it for free. If you somehow watch us and follow us without owning Rainbow Six, you get a chance to play it for free once again. We've seen a few of these free weekends come around quite often. If you have friends that maybe have never tried it, maybe have never bought it, hey, bring them along, see how it goes. There's going to be a whole bunch of new players. So, yeah, good fun to be had.
Yeah, just a quick note on that. For people out there who maybe get frustrated, they're trying to rank up or whatever and been playing this game a while, taking a break from the ranked grind and getting one of your friends who's never played the game and like showing them around a few casual games can be really fun, because you're going to, one, get a break from the ranked and see the lighter side of it. Two, you're going to get instant feedback on how far you've come in this game. A lot of times it's easy to forget like how much progress you've made since the first time you ever touched this game, and seeing one of your friends who's never played this game before and hopping into a casual with them is an instant reminder of that. So I would highly encourage anybody out there to not only mention it to your friend, but tell your friend, hey, I'll play a couple games with you and try and show you a few things. And the other thing I would say is, if you run into these new players, be nice. Like, just this isn't noob hunting weekend. Like, this is the weekend where you're going to see some crazy stuff in casual. Absolutely, you will. But, one of the things I go back to is my initial impressions with this game whenever I played the beta or even in the beginning was how cool the community was. And hopefully that still exists.
And if you're a YouTuber, it's a good time to get 6 months worth of clips for your videos.
Yeah.
I never have done that. Not once.
No, I haven't. Not intentionally. I mean, if you're playing the game.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that might be. Now, as you were speaking about realizing how far you've come, I actually had, maybe it was only last week, I had a bit of a real revelation, and that was watching Dr. Disrespect play for the first time. That was eye-opening. Like, you really, really forget how much knowledge this game takes and how much knowledge all of us regular players have. Because seeing Dr. Disrespect, who is great at first-person shooters, seeing him play the game, I remember he stepped in a goo mine and he's dying from this goo mine and he's trying to gunfight someone at the same time. And he's like, "What's killing me? What's going on? I don't get it." And it was really funny to watch on the one hand, but also made you realize, like, if you have never heard of Legion, if you don't know that there are basically glass-colored, poisonous mines strewn around the map that will get you and will start poisoning you every tick by tick, if you don't know that and you step in one, how do you know? Right? Unless you see sort of the prompt. But if you're in a gunfight, if you're focusing on something else, yeah, he died from that. So that was really eye-opening to see the struggle of someone who's new.
Yeah. And trying to like plant the diffuser with a goo mine in you, which is obviously something you can't do.
Yeah.
Like, I've got friends that are coming back to the game, and I was like, right, so what was the last season you played? And one of them was like, well, they just had this character called Ella come in, and like the other was like, oh, they just had a tower map. And it's like, right, well, the best way to get you back into it is two-step verification, and we're going into ranked. So we've had about a week and a half of just playing ranked and not doing particularly well. But I said to him, like, we're at the end of the season, so the rank that we get now playing together, when we go into the new season with the new ranked menu, we'll literally be able to see that progress over the seasons as, the team, as you learn call outs. Because I'm like explaining everything. I'm like, oh, that's an evil eye, and Maestro is actually one of the most important defensive characters, and they're all trying to run like all the OG operators all the time. I'm like, no, you've got to mix it up, man. You've got to use some of these other operators.
Yeah,
it's mad. But that thing that they're changing to ranked is really cool, by the way. You know, like, I don't think we spoke about that, but the fact that you're going to be able to track it through the seasons, obviously, like, anyone can go on the R6 stats or whatever it's called and see their own progress over the years, which is really cool. But you'll actually have all that in game, and you'll see where you stand against the community and everything.
Yeah, the menu for ranked is getting a massive buff, so that's going to be interesting to see.
And it's like, you know, I mean, obviously you won't continually always improve, but it will be a motivator as well to step in and, you know, try to get better at the game.
Well, why not? We hope it works. Now let's talk a little bit about a bit of news that was kind of discovered by a journalist at the finals in Milan. I actually spoke to him. I got to sit next to him back in the sort of media area, and he mentioned it to me then because he was so excited about it. The news article wasn't out yet, but he'd managed to speak to Alex Remy about what happens to Rainbow Six Siege when the new consoles come out, and it has finally now been officially confirmed that once the new consoles are released, there will be Rainbow Six Siege, as it is now, releasing on the new consoles, and there will be, hopefully, if nothing goes wrong, we should have basically cross-compatibility between the older generation of the consoles and the newer ones. So basically, if you're on a PS5 playing Rainbow Six, you can still play with your friends who are on PS4, and the same thing for Xbox. What are we expecting? An Xbox 2? whatever they call it, it'll be that one and the Xbox One that can play together. Now, one interesting thing, especially with the way Alex described it, is that the experience will be like someone on a higher end PC playing with someone on a lower end PC, basically. So that's how you can expect the different consoles to work. It'll look probably nicer, it might run a little bit smoother, but they're very conscious of making sure that you don't get any kind of tangible advantage from playing on the new consoles. Now, that's the way I interpreted it, basically. It's just like, you're going to get better quality from the newer consoles, it's going to take advantage of the new hardware, but it won't give you an advantage in-game. Now, a different way to interpret that, and that was sort of,
I agree with that.
Yeah. If I'm getting 140 and you're getting frames per second and you're getting 60, I have an advantage.
What about extra pixels? If you're playing at 4K native and you have all those extra pixels and the other person's playing at 1080, that is an advantage because you'll be able to see people. You have more. Look, do you want to go and watch your favorite film on VHS, or do you want to watch it on DVD or Blu-ray? I mean, like, there is a reason that extra definition. You'll be able to see people moving. You'll be able.
It's not an advantage like I'm playing mouse and keyboard and you're playing controller. And again, like you said, Rogue, people on PC, this is daily life. I play against people every day that are probably struggling to get 60 frames per second, and I have no idea. And, you know, that's just accepted. Will the console generation be able to accept that? That's not anything they've ever faced before.
Well, it depends on how big the change will be, right?
Yeah, right.
I mean, we don't know if the new console will have 1 million FPS or if the higher definition gives you a better view. I don't know.
Of course it will. You're going to have more pixels to aim and see someone.
Okay. Nobody who's really competitive in Siege is trying to play Siege in 4K, Pete. If it was that big of an advantage, you'd have people playing in 4K on PC. People want the frames per second.
Yes, that's why.
So that's where I'm more concerned. Will the next gen of consoles have an FOV slider, because that could be looked at as an advantage, and will they have the ability to go above 60 frames per second?
60, yes, yeah.
They should. If they don't, that's a problem. And I think that console players just need to accept the fact that not everybody's going to be on an exact level playing field anymore.
Let me come back on that, though, because I have a feeling that look, I don't know, I'm just speculating, right? But I would say that they're probably the new consoles probably will be 60 FPS, because most consoles are linked up to TVs and stuff like that, and the average TV or monitor won't give you 144 hertz. like my telly downstairs, I'm not sure. I think it's like 60. Even my old computer monitor was limited to 60. Are you going to be plugging in with HDMI cables or DisplayPort cables or what?
Because an option.
Yeah, no. I'm like ideal. Well, give them that option, sure. But I'm saying, are Sony thinking, oh, let's give them that option, or are they thinking they're probably thinking more in resolution than frames per second?
Yeah, that's a really good point.
It's really
that's the point.
Like, I think this comes down to something I've been thinking about a lot lately, because it's really easy at times to think, dude, everybody wants to play video games like me. Everybody wants 140 frames per second. But in reality, we are a really maybe even a vocal minority of gamers. And if you look at really the majority of gamers, they're probably still casual gamers playing on console, hooking the console up to their TV. The vast majority of console gamers, I would guarantee, still have their console hooked up to a TV and play on their couch.
Yeah.
So,
which was
that's a great point that you make, Pete. However, the average gamer is ticking more and more hardcore. Absolutely. That's what Call of Duty has struggled with, in my opinion, over the years, is Call of Duty has not been viewed as a hardcore game. The average gamer is getting more and more hardcore, more and more competitive. And if the next generation of consoles can't provide me with a competitive online multiplayer experience, if I want it, then there's no chance that I'm going to be interested in that product. Now, granted, again, maybe I'm the vocal minority, and they're still going to sell millions of consoles to the people who still want to play on their couch hooked up to a TV and don't care about that. But why not make a product that appeals to both of those audiences? That would be my question.
I don't know. I think for me, the selling point for consoles is convenience. You don't need to muck around with a PC. You don't need to buy different components. You don't need to be able to repair that. You don't need to mess around with an operating system. You've got so much convenience. It's like a little box you slap on your TV. Done. That's the whole point of it. And televisions just do not have high frame rate.
If they said to me, though, listen, here's the PS5. It's $500. You can buy it right now. You can play Rainbow Six Siege at 140 frames per second. You can plug your mouse and keyboard in. We will detect that mouse and keyboard, and we will pair you against other mouse and keyboard users or PC users. And you can adjust your field of view, and you can do everything that you do on PC, but you're going to do this on our PS5 with that costs $500 and is literally plug and play. You don't have to deal with Windows. You don't have to do with anything else. 100%. I'd be all over that.
Yeah,
that would probably be my main platform.
Look,
why not? I don't want to deal with a PC.
Dude, I don't disagree with what you're saying. We're on the same page. I agree. Like, I would love Microsoft and Sony to have all these options and to allow me to change field of view, because honestly, when I played Siege on console, the field of view made me feel sick. I would love to be able to change, the FPS and maybe play at slightly lower graphics settings to do that if I had those options. But I'm saying, realistically, are they going to do that? And I don't think they are, because people that want those settings tend to go out and be the people that save up and get a PC. And the people that play console do tend to be a little bit more casual. Not all. I mean, some of them are really competitive.
The other thing that I'll say on this subject, and I mentioned it to you guys on pre-show here, but if the next generation of consoles doesn't find a solution to this mouse and keyboard problem, meaning that if the next generation of consoles cannot detect input and prevent people from using unwanted devices for input, like if the next generation of consoles cannot prevent people from using mouse and keyboard and it appearing as a controller, it might as well be a brick. Because anybody who values a competitive online experience will not be able to get it. This problem of mouse and keyboard on consoles is already bad and only going to get worse. So, again, Sony, Microsoft, I want your system to succeed for the next generation. If you don't solve that problem, it cannot be taken seriously.
Well, I don't know. I mean, some people always want to go and play a game like Tomb Raider or Metal Gear Solid or FIFA on a console. Not everyone's playing Rainbow Six Siege super competitively. But I think what would be interesting is, for example, like Call of Duty, the new Call of Duty, they've said that will be cross-platform. Mm-hmm. Now, just going back to something you were saying with regards to plugging in a keyboard and mouse directly into your console and it recognizing them. And you don't have to go through this rigmarole of like buying yourself a bit of hardware to plug it into, right?
Sure.
And then putting you in servers with other people with the mouse and keyboard. That there is the solution. Because frankly, if I could get my own keyboard and my own mouse and plug it into a console and play other people on PC and consoles, like PlayStation 5, like that would be a fair playing field, and I'd be willing to do that, so long as I'm not paired against people with controllers. And on top of that, people that are using that other hardware would be at a disadvantage, because I've heard like that stuff, it's not as good as using a mouse and keyboard.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've still got the...
I fully agree. That's a step in the right direction. I don't think that's the end solution, because you're still going to get people who are doing it just to cheat and want the advantage of using mouse and keyboard against controllers. At the end of the day, Sony, Microsoft, you should be able to dictate what people plug into your machine. Like that's all we're asking. That when somebody plugs something into your machine, you know what it is and you know what it's capable of. If that limits my options as a user, but allows me to get a fair competitive experience, I'm more than willing to deal with that.
Here's an idea for the solution. So like you said, mouse and keyboard can be plugged in, but if you're doing it with a competitive game, you get into separate queues where you only play against other mouse and keyboard users. So those people who just prefer playing a first-person game with mouse and keyboard because it is a better experience, I would personally say, can do that and without impacting other players. But if you're going to use a controller, there's like a chip on the controller or something, a proprietary signal that means that you can only use specific controllers that are built for that console, rather than a third party being able to provide a product that can mimic the controller signals through mouse and keyboard or anything like that.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Cool. It has to be done.
Can they stop that from being can they stop that from being hacked and exploited? Well, difficult question. Maybe there also needs to be a legal layer of defense, like if you use our proprietary
patents.
Yeah, exactly.
If you manufacture a product that is designed to get around our safeguards that we have in place, we will sue you.
Who knows? I'm not an expert on that kind of law, but
if I was on this design committee, this would be the most. I would go as far as to say, if this was the only way of solving it, I would go as far as to say the only devices that will work on our machine are devices that have a certain chip or something inserted in them that we are the only people that can issue. Meaning, so if you're going to use mouse and keyboard, you can, but it's going to be a Sony mouse and keyboard that we sell. That, again, that's restrictive to the user. That sucks at the end of the day. But if that's the only way they can do it, fair enough.
Yeah, I think that would work. That would be fair enough. At the end of the day, it's your console, and you shouldn't really be obliged to allow other people to build peripherals for it.
Right.
For a consumer, though, it's better if you can just plug in the one keyboard that you have and then go around it the other way that you suggested originally, was like have this patented chip in the controller or what have you, and then just have it so like anyone that is genuinely playing on a controller can cross-platform play anyone else on a controller. That would be really cool.
Yeah, some specially encrypted signal. Who knows?
Let me bring up one thing real quick if we're done with that topic.
Not quite.
I forgot to add this. Okay, go ahead.
So I'm still on the consoles. What are you going for?
Okay, yeah.
Okay.
It's a completely different topic, so go ahead. Yeah,
so
let's finish
one
this.
other thing before we move on that was actually really interesting. I don't know if that was in the sort of recent article that came out or if that's just part of the original article, but Ubisoft also confirmed that they are currently looking at the Google Stadia, which is the up-and-coming console from Google that has the sort of cloud-based ability. And Microsoft are apparently also developing cloud-based gaming of their own, and that is already also being looked into by Ubisoft.
And PS4 and Microsoft have partnered to develop cloud-based gaming together. That's kind of an interesting. Yeah, that's kind of they've agreed to work together on that front, because I think they recognize the threat that Google has. And they're kind of working together to fend off that competitor. So yeah, that's going to be interesting to see how that works.
Have you seen any information on that? You can watch like the demonstration they showed. You'll be watching, say, a YouTube video of Rainbow Six Siege, and then there'll be a little like in Chrome. on your desktop, there'd be a little button, launch the game. And from Chrome, you're playing the game, and it's using very little of your own CPU, because it's all obviously it's all done on their end of things. It's just absolutely crazy. And I know this isn't new technology, and they've tried this before, but just to think like you could have a really crappy PC and play on amazing graphics, the most up-to-date games.
Well, wasn't it in the demo that they then transfer it to their Android phone, and someone brings out a microwave or something? I'm joking, but literally just going from thing to thing, from their TV to their phone to their tablet, and maybe to the dedicated console, but just going through all these devices seamlessly. Yeah, if they can make that work, hey, that's innovative. That's pretty cool.
And you can plug your phone into like a controller and play Siege, but you're not playing a mobile version of the game. Your phone is just a monitor. You are playing Siege, the full bloody game,
which is running on a high-end server.
I have a laptop. What is a normal laptop screen? Like 19 inches or 15 inches?
14, 17, stuff like that. 15
I think it's a 14 or 15 inch screen. It's really difficult to play Siege on that, because of how small the pixels, like, you know what I mean? Like when you're holding pixel angles, you're looking at as, something that's really small. But playing like Dota or something like that over a cloud-based gaming system would be really cool.
Right, over to your topic.
I just wanted to mention real quick, because I played a lot in the TS, and I wanted to get your guys' feedback on this. So in the TS, I ran into a lot of trolls that with the pick and ban would ban the new operators. So here we go. I mean, we've already seen this coming on this podcast. We've talked about this, correct? Like we've already said that if you are going to bring pick and ban in, you need to leave the new operators exempt for a period of time. So do you think that that this season is going to be rolled out with the new operators being able to be banned like they are in the TS right now? And how big of a disaster do you think that's going to be? A big issue at all? If you paid $30 for a season pass and you're not able to play them because people are banning them for that week of exclusivity?
It is for the season pass, because why have a season pass if you get that week and then everyone that doesn't have the season pass, out of spite and just for, lols, bans the new operators. So it kind of needs to be the opposite of Pro League. Like, maybe the new operators can't be banned at least for a few weeks, or the first, say, half of the season, to give everyone a chance to play them.
I'd say 2 weeks. Just make them exempt for 2 weeks.
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think you're completely right. The biggest problem would probably be during that initial phase when season pass holders have access and regular players don't, and that might create some sort of resentment. And it's like, well, I'm going to ban this right now because why would I let someone else play? And I can definitely see that happening. But actually, that problem might even sort of, it'll dip once the operators become available for everyone, but it might not disappear completely, because then you still have players who don't have enough credits to unlock them yet, who haven't unlocked them yet, and who could still, sort of out of spite for that, try to keep banning them. So yeah, I think maybe this next season will actually then be an interesting trial, and they can probably hopefully judge from that how long the problem persists. I mean, what we definitely need is to make sure that the initial week where season pass holders get it, that needs to be protected. It needs to be. And then maybe for a while afterwards still, maybe not. We shall see.
The thing is, if they keep making ops like Warden, nobody's going to want to ban like, I'm going to the next season, I'm like, yeah, ban Warden. All right, go ahead. Like, that's just a free ban. Okay. So I've had some people in my comments that are like, no, they should be 100% bannable. I get it. This solution that I'm suggesting is not perfect. In a perfect world, yes, the new op should be bannable, because that's the whole point. If you want to give yourself a tactical edge by banning a new operator, you should be able to do it. That's the whole point of pick and ban. The problem with that is that people are dickheads, and they will do it out of spite. They will ban the new operators out of spite. And you combine that with the fact that people have paid a monetary amount for 1 week of early access to these operators, and you have a recipe for disaster.
Maybe
so
the
I
joke's
agree
on
with
them,
the people.
though.
I agree with the people saying that this doesn't make sense. I get you 100%. But I also think that those people are being unrealistic about the nature of the world.
Yeah, well, obviously, the thing is though, maybe the joke is on them because maybe they're just wasting bans, so they think that they're being kind of childish and funny or what have you, but they're the ones that could be banning like someone pertinent to the opposition team strategy, right?
That's a point, yes. I suppose, yeah.
I just think that can you imagine the Reddit posts? Like, how many screenshots do you think you're going to see of the pick and ban phase, new ops banned, title of the Reddit the Reddit thread is going to be, why am I paying for a season pass, Ubisoft?
Yeah,
that's like you can see this from miles away. It's coming.
I wonder if they foresaw this at all, like this behavior.
On one hand, I say, how could you not? On the other hand, I say, if they had, why didn't they have a solution in the TS?
Yes, good point. You'd think actually in the TS it would be in their interest to maybe have the new operators exempt as well, just to make sure that they get played and that they get tested. That's the whole point. Right? So
the other thing that needs to change in the TS, unless they are fixing something specifically with the matchmaking or MMR system, you should not gain or lose any MMR in ranked matches. You should just play a ranked match, and everybody at the end of that game, whether you win or lose, it just gets wiped, and everybody stays at the exact same MMR for the entire duration of the TS. Because once you get ranked and you hit platinum or whatever, you cannot find matches anymore. And that's ridiculous.
Right. Yep.
Because it means nothing.
Yeah, that's a problem that even hadn't occurred to me. But yes, how silly is that you're kind of torpedoing your own test platform by having the rank in there and splitting people out? Yeah, very good point. Do you want to continue and talk a little bit about Battalion 1944? That's kind of been out for a while. It's been available to play for a while now, no?
It was released about a year ago, I believe, in early access. And just real quick, because I've been very Italian on this platform for good reason. The game was not launched in a good state, and they struggled for a long time. But it's almost like a No Man's Sky where they kind of acknowledged their mistakes. They kind of bunkered down and got to work, and now they've released the game fully. And it's in a really good state right now. It's a fun game. It's a really bare bones, like search and destroy, old school first-person shooter. It's got an economy system very similar to Counter-Strike. It's in a World War II setting. If you like objective Twitch shooting, good gunplay games but that are very bare bones, then I think that there's a lot of people who'd be interested in this game. I think it's on sale now. But I only felt right saying that because, again, I've been very critical of the game on this platform. So I want to make it known that, I think they've done a good job to not just, wither into the night, but to actually buckle down and get the game polished.
I remember seeing a presentation by the lead developer who came up with the game, and that was at EGX Res, I think now 2018. No, must have been 2017, I believe. So I saw him in person, and he basically talked about his whole goal for creating this game was to recreate the experience of the original Call of Duty games, the original sort of Call of Duty 2, Call of Duty 3 maybe, and then we went Modern Warfare with 4, right? So the original Second World War Call of Duties, that was his goal to get that experience back into players' hands. If anyone played those back then, that might mean something.
Mm-hmm. And it's on all platforms, is it?
No, it's not on console. It's just available on Steam.
I thought there was talk of it coming to console.
Yeah, there was. That was, kind of, and maybe it will if it keeps, it's doing pretty well right now. So if it keeps picking up momentum, maybe it will come to console.
Mm-hmm.
There we go. Let's talk a little bit about Pro League. We've had the finals recently, and we're probably now, there's no information yet on when the new season will start exactly, but obviously that can't be far behind the launch of the new season, which I think we're expecting next week. So let's talk a little bit about what for us to expect, what's going to be changing. Let's maybe start out with the relegation in the three main regions that we cover here. So in North America, a team dropped out halfway through the season, right? Liquipedia now lists them as Orgless. They weren't Orgless at the time, were they?
They were Noble originally. The old Noble roster. They went into Orgless this season, and then they disbanded halfway through the season.
Yeah, so they disbanded. They were out halfway through the season. So obviously no one dropping out from the bottom of the pile. We only had 7 teams. So, but the number 1 team from Challenger League coming into North American Pro League now is 92 Dream Team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, really entertaining squad. Do you guys remember the meme match a while ago? It's been a while now, but it was Obey whenever they were in Pro League. And I think this was a qualifier of some sort, but it was Obey and the other team, I forget what they were even called, but it was that famous clip of, I think it was Skies on the window on Consulate and the whole other team just jumping out the window trying to kill them. And it was just a really memey match. Well, that roster, the core of that roster turned into a 92 Dream Team. And yeah, they're not a meme anymore. They are somebody to be taken seriously. Like they have a unique play style, really entertaining, extremely talented players that can gun you in the face at any time, and they're gonna be a force to be reckoned with.
Oh, it's really cool. Excited to see them. Then from the basically 7th spot, we had Rise at the bottom, and they had a playoff against Susquehanna Sonics. I believe that's how it might be pronounced. Who were, of course, the number 2 in Challenger League North America, and they won. So the Sonics are in and Rise is out.
Yeah, both teams out of Challenger League made it in. The top, 2 teams made it in from Challenger League, which kind of makes the case for why relegation makes sense in a lot of ways. Sonics had a lot of resources. They are a well-funded org that have, are somebody to be taken seriously as well. Congrats to Goddess. This is what, the second or third? This is definitely at least 2 times that she's now gone through Challenger League and qualified for Pro League on separate rosters. I mean, congratulations to the whole roster, but especially to her.
In Latin America, again, we're seeing some changes. So Pain Gaming came bottom of the Pro League this season, so they're automatically out, and coming in is Team 1. And then we had Red Devils in a playoff against Yeah Gaming, and Red Devils won, so they get to stay in Pro League. We'll see how that plays out, because Latin America last season, and I think maybe even for the last couple of seasons, has been one of the closest matches, if not the closest matched region in the world. Like there's always like the first 4 or even 5 teams halfway through the season and even towards the end of the season are always like neck and neck, a point apart, same points, really, really close stuff. So I'm excited to see how these teams manage to do next time around. In the EU, quite interestingly, we have Navi drop out because they came 8th, and in a twist of fate, we have Navi coming back in as the number
Navi got
1.
Promoted.
Yeah, so Navi basically switches rosters and basically they shake hands on the way out. The old Navi team, they got relegated, they're out, auto-relegated, they're out, and then M&M, who came first in Challenger League, they've been now taken over by Navi, and they're coming straight back in. Really excited to see how they do. And then Team Secret, they struggled so much throughout the entire season, but right at the end, in that sort of last play day, they managed to sort of fight their way past Navi. They came into the 7th spot. They had a chance to fight for their relegation or to fight against the relegation. And then they lost anyway, and they're out, and in come Team Vitality, who were 2nd in Challenger League last season.
Of note, the org Team Secret is sticking with that roster. They're not dropping them, and they're going to stick with them through Challenger League, which is really cool to see.
That's great, yeah. Because that's something it's something that maybe you almost expect when a team falls out of Pro League, and it's a large organization that they ditch the team and pick up a different team, like we saw for Navi, for instance. Maybe Cloud9 also picking up different team. So yeah, we see that these organizations can then just sort of jump right back in by getting another team as the relegation occurs. So yeah, really good on them to stick. I think Stizzy is leaving the team, and I don't think a replacement has been announced for him yet. But other than that, we shall continue to watch them.
I mean, they're not a bad team. It was just a really weird season for them, because if you think back, like if you went all the way back to the Paris Majors last year, they were arguably the second EU team, the number 2, and that was a big fall from grace last season because they seem to be on the up and up.
Yeah. Hard to say what it was exactly, and I'm not sure they've really publicly given specific reasons, not that I've seen at least. But yeah, they went from top of the world to crashing in flames, really.
Mm-hmm.
Let's talk about some transfers. One of the most notable ones, one that I'm excited about, I'm going to go right up top with Uno joining G2 and basically taking the place of Jonas for the time being. On Liquipedia, it lists Jonas still as a member of G2, but it lists him as inactive. That's the official information on Liquipedia. That's the official information they have. I've not seen a statement from Jonas at all. And in fact, in preparation for the podcast today, I tried to find his Twitter account, and I could only find 2 fake accounts in his name. Definitely fake accounts. They both had like almost no tweets.
He does. Yunus is not a social butterfly. He's not a guy that's going to that I would expect to make a statement. I'll say that just from my interactions with him.
I couldn't find his account, and in fact,
it's
actually,
really weird.
Well, yes,
began with G2.
It's Yunsky, I believe.
Yeah.
Yunsky.
JNZ.
Or maybe he just deleted it. It wouldn't surprise me if he just deleted it.
Because I'll tell you what, I went to the G2 webpage, the team webpage for the organization G2. I found his entry as a player. He's still listed there. And then I went to the bottom. I clicked on the link that is on the official link to his Twitter that is on the G2 webpage. And it took me to, G2 and the way he spelled his name, JNSZKI, I believe it is. Mm-hmm. And it's a fake account. It's not him. It has 2 followers. It has no picture. It has almost no tweets. So he's fallen off a bit. So I don't know if that Liquipedia entry about him being an inactive continuing member, I don't know how accurate that is. But that aside, Uno on G2. That could be really exciting, really interesting. Because G2, I mean, there's sort of the meme of saving strats, and whether you want to believe that or not, I mean, the prize pool for the Invitational was significant, and it would make sense that if anyone was going to save strats, it would make sense to save them for the biggest prize pool and the biggest event Rainbow Six has ever had. But then even after the midpoint of the season, after the Invitational, G2 still had kind of mixed results, let's call it. So I think them having a change and a breath of fresh air is hopefully exactly what they need to rejuvenate the team and really come back roaring. Because one of the things that I've sort of heard about Uno is like he was on the stream, he was the number 1 player. He was the IGL, I believe, and he was the star player. It was up to him to carry the squad. And sort of from what I've heard about in conversations is that he's really good in scrims. When they're playing against other pro teams, he does extremely well. But then when it goes to playing for real, playing on LAN, playing even online in the season, the pressure gets to him a little bit, maybe. Because his performance is definitely not the same when he's playing for real versus when he's playing in scrims. And maybe joining like a star-studded team like G2 will take a lot of the pressure off his shoulders. He's not carrying the team anymore. He's not now the IGL. He doesn't have to worry about any of that. He just has to play to his strengths and do his best. And I'm excited to see how G2 can perform next season.
I'm a little sad, I'll be honest. Like, nothing against Uno. Uno's a great player. Uno, I think, will bring a different element to this team. I was streaming the other day, and Shaw's the G2 coach came in, and we were asking about it. It's only natural, and what he explained was that they felt like Eunice was a little bit too rigid in his play style. He wasn't willing to be flexible enough, and that put a lot of stress on the rest of the team to kind of adapt around him instead of him adapting with the team. And I can kind of see that. With that said, man, I just think about Eunice and like, I remember the interrogation at the Invitational. Wasn't that no, that was Paris. That was Paris with him fist bumping in the middle of a round while he's getting an Invitational. He was such an emotional and fun player to watch. And from what I remember of Eunice, he always performed really well at LANs. I do think that, yes, in the last season, he has struggled. I don't remember him struggling that bad at the Invitational, though. But I could be wrong. I could just kind of be overlooking it because they won, and there could be something there. But yeah, I'm a little sad. But we'll still see Eunice. He's actually on Mouse. That's been, I believe, announced.
Oh, has it? Okay.
It's widely speculated at very least. Like, Eunice ended up on Mouse, and Wilkie's out of Pro League. Wilkie's
okay.
Gone.
Yeah. So I did look that up on Liquipedia today, and they still have a 4-man roster listed for Mouse. But yeah, if that's the case, then that would perfectly make sense because as far as I was aware, there was no announcement yet for Wilkie's departure. But if he goes up there, why not? It makes sense because they're kind of like a Nordic team. So yeah, he'll hopefully find a good team there and a good home there. I mean, in terms of his performance, like I've looked over sort of stats a little bit, and the one thing, without going into the stats, the one thing I remember throughout the last season, basically the full 6 months, is that out of the G2, all of the players really stuck out to me at one point or another. Like Goga he's the support player of Rainbow Six Pro League, but even for him, I remember him like getting 3-kill clutches and doing these amazing things. Like his job is to open a wall and plant, and he's still going in and getting 2 or 3 kills, and that's like, oh my god, he's getting all these kills, he's doing really well. Fabian's role is IGL, but still he's been doing amazing work in terms of fragging, sometimes top of the leaderboard. So they are sticking out to me. Pengu, the flex player that you can think of, the stereotypical flex player. He's not always the most kills, not always top of the team leaderboard, but he always delivers in whatever role he's in. And then you have Kanto, of course, who still is the ultimate fragger. And then it's like, well, I have no memory of anything extremely positive or anything extremely negative from Jonas' perspective. It's always like, well, yeah, I don't know if that's unfair, but that's personally just my perspective of his performance for the last season at least, is there was nothing really remarkable.
You know what the funny thing is? If you went back a few years, he used to be the fragger. Mm-hmm. Him on Bandit, I can picture him roaming around Consulate, and being a right thorn in the backside of the enemies. He was like the consummate roamer. He was brilliant at it. And I think maybe he's been burdened a little bit by like this. He maybe he needs that like freedom to do that, but you can't have him and Kanto, in that same role. So maybe, and I can see the benefit for G2 in freshening the team up, because any successful team, even if you're winning everything, you still need to make the odd tweak, even when you're at the height of your success, to keep people motivated.
And arguably, if you look at the last season, G2 is not at the height of their success.
Yeah. I don't know if you can place all that blame on Junis.
That's not what I'm saying, but you're mentioning even a tweak needs to be made at the height. But they're not even there, so it makes even more of an argument for making a tweak.
Yeah. I think I feel a bit bad for him. I'm glad he's on another team, and I just wish him all the best.
Maybe we'll have a Eunice revenge tour. Well, you think you're gonna have Eunice and Shate both playing together? Those are former G2 Penta players.
Yeah, man. And maybe you'll see him as the fragger again. Do you know what I mean? Like that guy. Yeah. Absolutely.
This could be the Eunice revenge tour that we're seeing this season.
Yeah, we'll see how that plays out. A little bit of news about Accelerate, North American team. They have basically, Accelerate as an organization has left them, but 3 of the members of Accelerate, ex-Accelerate if you want to say so, they're still there. They have formed a new team, and they have brought on Merc and, drumroll, it's Beaulo. Beaulo,
the young god.
He is joining Pro League. He will be playing in North American Pro League next season. Oh my god, exciting stuff.
Oh my god.
What are your thoughts on that then?
Dude, I'm so excited. First of all, it has to be said that is one of the most marketable teams in Pro League in general. And the fact that they're orgless right now needs to change. If you are an org out there to get involved in Rainbow Six Siege, what an opportunity. I mean, I'm just stating the facts here. I don't want to add to the pressure of Beaulo. Lord knows the man has enough of that coming in with these huge expectations and stuff and hype and whatnot. But let's face the facts. Beaulo instantly is the most popular North American player. And it could be argued is probably the most popular, the second most popular Rainbow Six Siege player in the world. Only to Pingu. If you look at stream numbers, if you look at YouTube numbers, I would say that Beaulo probably has the second biggest fan following of any player in Pro League, only second to Pingu, and the biggest in North America. So the fact that they're orgless right now, that needs to change, and it would that's a no-brainer. You also look at Pojo Man, who runs the digest. That's a very marketable player as well. I mean, Achieved is a star on the rise in Pro League, and I believe they picked up Merc. I want to say
yes.
Yeah, okay, and he's got a lot of potential as well. And I'm sorry, I'm leaving somebody out there, but that roster needs to be picked up.
All right, let me read it for you. Hang on, I've got them right here. So it will be Achieved, Biologic, and Crusher, who were X-Accelerate. Then you have Merc and Beaulo coming in, and Pojo Man is still coach.
Pojo's playing, I believe, isn't he?
Well, how can there be 6 players?
Okay, well, maybe, I don't know. What does Bolo's tweet say? Beaulo listed...
Yeah, Bolo's tweet is really confusing because he says, I will be playing in the upcoming season of Pro League, and then it says team, Achieved, Biologic, Crusher, Merc, Pojo Man. That's 5 players. And himself.
Okay, so maybe Pojo did move into a coach back.
That's what Wikipedia. That's what Wikipedia tells me.
All right. I'm really excited about this. It's about time. I kind of got hints of this whenever I was in San Francisco with Beaulo, just from a couple of things that he said. I wish him all the best. I hope that everybody gives him a chance. I hope that we as fans can capitalize off of this. Again, I'm not trying to add more pressure to him, but Beaulo is going to bring fresh eyes to Pro League this season. And I think it's a real opportunity for Rainbow Six Siege Pro League as a whole to capitalize off of this. And I'm really excited about it.
I want to see him wrecking in the Pro League. I want to see him doing what he does on streams and in YouTube videos in the Pro League.
Again, we had that Creator Cup, Pete. I don't know if you saw those videos. We had a Creator Cup where it was all of us YouTubers playing against each other in San Francisco. So it's not Pro League. Don't even get it twisted. I'm not saying that is even comparable to Pro League, but it's Beaulo playing against 9 other content creators, with or against 9 other content creators. And he destroyed. So
how would you use him in a team scenario? Would you say, look, right, you're the fragger, do your thing, and us 4 are going to play around. We're going to have our strats, but you're just the free spirit of the team. Loosely, you need to know what we're doing and where we're going to be and what we're trying to achieve, and you play around that with a freedom. Or would you just try and pin him into a role?
I would say neither. You don't need to have him as a sort of separate wild card. I'm sure you can get the most out of one of the top players who hasn't been in Pro League so far in the world by just integrating him into the team, making him part of those strategies. And whether that can be in a fragger role, but it doesn't have to be like a sort of satellite that moves around the strategy of the other 4 players. It can just be an integrated part of those strategies.
I wouldn't be surprised if we see him in kind of a flex role. Again, I'm not going to pretend that I'm best buds with Beaulo, but in the time that I've been around him, I do think he's a pretty humble person. I don't picture him coming into the team and being like, I'm entry, whether you like it or not.
That's a perfect imitation of his voice.
That's not Beaulo as far as my interactions with him. So it wouldn't surprise me to see him on some type of a flex role and just to kind of enter the team that way and see where he kind of fits in.
Hey, we shall see. So I mentioned earlier M&M Gaming bought by Navi. So yeah, let's skip that. We mentioned Wilkie as well, leaving Mouse Esport. I want to kind of mention that again because I feel bad for him because it was only like a matter of months ago, really not very long, that he finally, after years of playing as a pro player, finally quit his day job to become full-time pro. And now that's gone. How unfortunate.
You know,
That's
the
a
thing
shame.
with him, he did a really good job on the analyst desk. I think he was tweeting that out. I think there's going to be opportunities there for him in future. So that's something he can pursue. But that's not to say his pro league career is over. I'm sure there are teams that would benefit from his experience, whether as a player or as a coach and analyst within a team. Like he would be, he's been about the block since the very beginning, so he can just bring such a wealth of experience to any team. I don't think he's going to be out of work for long.
Yeah, and that he mentioned that specifically, like he wants to stay in Rainbow Six, he wants to stay in Pro League. Whatever opportunity there is, he's happy to consider that.
There will be.
Best of luck for him. Here's another interesting little point. There's a team being built that won't actually be playing in Pro or Challenger League, but they are gunning for Challenger League, and it will be Renshiro, Yogurts, a fellow called Mastemor, and RXW, not sure, RXWD, not sure how that is supposed to be pronounced, and the fifth player will be Shaiiko. So he's coming together with a few other French pros that we already know of. I mean, Renshiro, well known for his time in EU Pro League, and yeah, they're getting together to make a run on EU Challenger League. Thoughts on that?
Yeah, you want to talk about a revenge tour? Holy cow! This is going to be. I hope they make it to Pro League. I honestly do. I hope they qualify for DreamHack Valencia. I want to see this go down. Like, this is must see TV. Shaiiko playing against the rest of EU
Against G2.
yeah.
After what happened, so he was banned for two years.
Yes.
Was it 2 years?
Yes.
And he's served that ban, so now he's back. So are they slotting straight into Challenger League?
No, I don't believe so. They have to play They have to play their way in at this point.
Right.
But you'd think, like, okay, he has former pro experience, maybe legit, maybe not. But he has. I mean, if you see anything from his fans and his viewers on stream, is that he is extremely good. And that's one of the things that people have been burning for, to see him come back and basically prove that he can do well without resorting to cheating. And then, of course, I mean, you have former French pros in there as well. So there's no reason that they shouldn't be able to make that leap and get that done. Yeah,
that's a solid lineup. You, like, as a fan, you want to see players like Beaulo, Pengu, Shaiiko, like people who are phenomenal at the game. Because, like, obviously he served that ban and whatever happened. But do you remember in the lead up to that, like, thinking, my God, like, this player is changing, like, single-handedly changing the whole turn of the game. Like, and obviously what happened. So I want to know if this, because if he is legit, man, he is up there as one of the, like, top couple of people in the whole game.
We shall see, I'm sure. And then maybe another sort of little bit of news about, again, an EU team that is not in Challenger League yet, but challenging for it. And that's a team called Sleepy, which will comprise of Liven, the Godly Noob, Cactus, Yannix, and, oh goodness, Torden Guden for the win, I believe. And being coached by Kixstar. So
Yeah,
Kixstar,
cool.
Kixstar's had this sort of initiative going for almost a couple of months now, where he's been having tryouts and scrims, and he's been streaming those things. And yeah, so here we go. He has founded a team.
Yeah, that'll be cool to see how that does.
And I think actually
there's some potential there. Absolutely. I mean, Liven was on the Millennium roster that had a lot of success. So
yeah.
Obviously I'm interested. That's going to be fun to watch.
Yeah, and of course, I mean, probably a similar appeal as Beaulo has. Godly Noob, really well known for his content on Twitch and YouTube, and seeing him then come into Pro League and see what he can do there, I'm excited to see that.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, best of luck to them there. And I think that's pretty much it for the transfers and changes. You mentioned one, there's Dark Zero has a change, yeah?
Yeah. Hyper left Rise, the team that got relegated in North America, and has joined Dark Zero. Dark Zero dropped. Why can't I think of his name?
Jarvis,
yes.
There
oh my
go.
gosh. Sam. So that's a big change. I mean, Hyper had the most. He was the only player in North America that averaged over 1 kill per round. He was the highest rated player in North America according to CGG stats. I believe he had the most kills in North America, and I want to say he carried like a 1.4 KD with the highest opening kills. So think about that. Not only was he carrying the highest KD, but he was playing super aggressive. It's not like these kills came at the end of the round when he's in a 1v5 and, he gets 2 kills and still loses the round. Like, these were high impact kills, and I'm really excited about this change. It's going to be crazy.
I think what makes
I can't wait for this season.
What makes that performance almost more impressive is that Rise as a team actually struggled. Like, they came 7th and then they lost their relegation match and then got dropped out. And for him to be sort of individually the top player on an underperforming team, like normally if the team is doing well, it can help you to have a better performance as well. To have an outstanding performance on an otherwise struggling team, that's even more of an achievement, I would say.
Yeah. Does
that make sense?
And I had England on the Pro and Potato not too long ago, and he was very complimentary of Hyper and his ability to learn. And I mean, he basically said on there, like, I'm afraid that Hyper is going to get picked up by somebody because the stats just like jump off the page at you. And he was right.
Dark Zero making moves.
That's right.
Anything else about the upcoming Pro League? Anything you're particularly looking forward to, particularly excited about?
Just the whole season, really.
Well, we're gonna have a new round of the pilot program. There's gonna be some new entries there. We don't know who yet, but that's gonna be kind of exciting to see. I would just touch again. Like, I really think this is. I don't want to say make or break. I think that's a bit much to say. But I think that there's a real opportunity for Rainbow Six Siege to take a step this season. This will be a very important season for Rainbow with the star power that we have and all the storylines. And I'm really hoping we can capitalize on that, not only with performance as far as the players, close matches, but we need the productions to go off cleanly. We don't need these, let's say that Beaulo is getting ready to play his first match in Pro League, and it's slated to start at 8:00. That needs to start at 8:00. We don't need to be getting into that and then seeing that ESL is having internet problems and the match is delayed for an hour. Like, this is an opportunity. We need to capitalize on this and not shoot ourselves in the foot.
I have to say, touch wood, the last season seemed an improvement over the season before, or the last half of the season seemed an improvement over the first half of the season. Is that fair?
There were still some issues. I remember, several of the NA play days where you would log on and see that, the matches weren't starting on time because they were having technical difficulties and,
Yep. I do know. Here's another thing for Pro League. So let's start off with the first thing. Let's start off with Mozzie and Gridlock, right? They're definitely coming out of quarantine. They're going to be in Pro League now. What do you think their impact will be on the gameplay? Will they have a high impact? Will they be sort of kind of okay?
Really interesting question, because if you would have asked me this 2 weeks ago, I would have said I don't really see either of them having much of an impact. But when the Hyper transfer was announced, I sat down with Mint and Hyper on the Dark Zero channel, and I asked them that exact question, and both of them were really high on Mozzie. They didn't mention they said they don't see how his gadget will be used necessarily, but they were really high on the fact that he has a shotgun secondary that can do soft destruction. He's got a nitro cell. He's a 2-speed, and he has a good gun in that commando, I believe is what they were referring to as, one of the better defender guns in their words. And then I think it was Mint that did mention that, using those to be able to potentially block off 3 drones. They didn't talk about people capturing drones and driving them around. It was like drone denial was more of how I think they saw his gadget being used. And it really took me by surprise. I did not expect them to speak so highly on Mozzie. Gridlock, they were kind of like, we don't really know how that's going to work necessarily, but they think that she'll be kind of like site specific, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. You know what's kind of surprises me and what I kind of find of interesting is that Mozzie in his intended role has not really blossomed, right? The big idea was for him to be able to capture drones, and then as a defender, you can drone. And okay, obviously he has to control it, so he can't really drone himself for the most part. He's vulnerable sitting in a corner while he's droning. But at least always I thought the idea of droning for another roamer, capturing a drone and then being able to help one of your teammates roam effectively, I always thought like that's going to be a big thing. It's going to be a big thing in Pro League, well, certainly in Pro League, but even in sort of just ranked or casual, if you're with a friend and you're cooperating, you can make that work. And that's kind of not really materialized.
It's kind of who do you drop for that, though? Because that does sound bloody awesome. But who do you give up? Because obviously that's going to be an anchor sitting there on site, droning around for a roamer. So who are you dropping? Like, do you drop a maestro? So I think it's interesting to hear that the pro players are talking about actually using them to deny the drones. Like, which is so obvious because of course they do that because otherwise you get the drones. So, but they're thinking about it on that aspect of the meta, like stopping a drone coming in for a certain area and gaining that intel because otherwise they give it to you. So it's actually kind.
Yeah,
so,
and you know what I've noticed? Go ahead, Pete. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to say, like, before you said that, I'd have thought, like, maybe Gridlock, all right, her stats aren't great, but I'd have thought, well, like, I can actually see uses for the gadget, whereas I don't for Mozzie, because, you think of, like, driving drones around and stuff like that, but, like, when you think of it in those terms...
What I've really noticed with Mozzie from my own gameplay, and, I'm definitely not pro caliber, but if you just lay them down in like common spots for places for drones to come, they can be really useful in like late round situations. So if you think about like a mute jammer, you lay a mute jammer down, like people know there's a mute jammer there. You can hear it even if you're not on a drone. If you're next to it, you can hear it. You come around a corner, you shoot it out, whatever. Like it's very well known there's a mute jammer. However, with a Mozzie, it's almost like in that last minute when the attackers are trying to drone out the anchors on site, that's when those really shine because people don't really know they're there and they'll still run them into it. And so the big thing there is not only did you deny that drone, you now have an extra camera on a lane that the attackers are trying to come. They're droning out the lanes they're getting ready to walk down. And that can be really cool.
Do you think there's value in like withholding one or picking them up and redistributing them as the round goes on and just trying to keep yourself alive? Like anchoring with a, because obviously like you think of his weapon, he's probably, makes sense as quite a good, reasonable roamer, but maybe he's like more of a like you say, a late game player, moving his gadgets around,
I think if you're looking to use a drone and actually move it around, then the most likely and realistic way of doing that effectively would be to keeping one of the gadgets on you and shooting a drone that you stumble across in your room. So that you shoot it, you capture it, and it's right there beside you right now.
Guaranteed.
Yeah, right. If you're off site and you capture a drone on the objective, about the best you can do safely is get on that drone, hop it up in a nice vantage point within the objective, and use it as a camera. The idea of hopping on that drone, driving it around the map while you're roaming on the other side of the map at high level plays where those players know where the majority of the players are at all times. You know what I mean? Like, at high level play, the roamers aren't like deep roaming and like hiding under a desk very, very, very often. So
think like on Bank, you're sitting on the bomb, you know, like you've saved I don't know what's his bloody gadget called that you fire on the
I call them spiders, whatever. I mean,
yeah, so you know, you saved one and then like you just then fire it onto the wall, like in case like a drone comes from the garage.
yeah.
But then would it be any better than a jammer? I suppose it's better because you're not alerting people to it as quickly that it exists, but then you don't have the other. It's like that advantage you can do it from a distance, you know, like you can be sat away from that location you want it to be, and then you can instantly put it there.
Yeah.
It's interesting nonetheless.
Yeah.
I would have thought that Gridlock would have brought a little bit more for that area denial and the early warning system and the sound, the audible cover that it provides. So I'm quite interested to see how that operator plays out.
Yeah.
So
in that same conversation, to talk about Lion a little bit, that was it was actually Hyper who was like, I think that Lion might be better than he used to be because you don't get as much of a warning. Now, as a player, I appreciate it because you don't have your audible senses clouded up for nearly as long as you used to with the Lion, but like half as long, really. But on the counter side of that, you have less time to react as a defender. So you hear it and it goes off. It used to be like you had that long countdown. So you knew like, okay, get to a safe spot and then don't move. But yeah.
Why did we go through the exercise of reworking him if the goal is not to bring him back into Pro League? So maybe then the question...
I would say that the goal was to bring him back into Pro League, and it very well may happen. However, if it was me, I would be looking at it like he's already out, and what do I gain by bringing him back in? What do I risk by bringing him back in?
Okay.
And I think that you would have an uproar. What's worse, just to leave him out and kind of sweep it under the rug and just like everybody's already used to Lion being quarantined right now. Just keep him there and just leave him there as far as I'm concerned, or bring him back in. He has 100% pick rate. The pros abuse him, complain about it, and then you've got to do it again. Like I would be looking, that's what I would be looking at. What's it worth there?
Yeah, I think absolutely you're right. Weighing up those two factors is important. I would argue that there are long-term issues with leaving him out, because if you're thinking about the goal of Rainbow Six Esport is to grow and to get more viewers and newer viewers, that's a question you have. You're playing this game and you see your operators and then you go and watch it for the first time and it's like, why is Lion not there? It's always going to be that question. Whenever someone new watches it, someone who hasn't been following it, someone who doesn't know. Even now, I mean, you've got to say that in casual and ranked gameplay, Lion is borderline useless. He's really difficult to use for anyone who isn't in that sort of highly cooperative, highly organized team. So I think that has a potential for confusion, that you see this operator that you don't even like, that you can't really take advantage of, and then he's not in Pro League. Why? Right? So I would say that probably the issues of keeping him out indefinitely are probably maybe a bit more than it's just like, oh, well, we're used to it anyway. But at the same time, obviously, if even in his weakened form, he's still oppressive and an automatic ban and it kind of messes up with everything, then yeah, that's a different problem.
Yeah.
Right. So we have a few minutes time. Let's go to some questions if you want to submit those to any of the streams. I actually had a question earlier that I just want to go straight to. This was from Kaminsky. And he was saying, speaking of LATAM Pro League, what about the match-fixing allegations between FaZe and Black Dragons? What are our opinions? And yeah, that's actually something that we have seen and we did kind of speak about. There was an article on Siege GG, and basically it was a disgruntled, was it an analyst on Black Dragons left the team and then kind of came out with this entire story about how there was a match that was fixed between Black Dragons and FaZe.
Weren't it that one where there was that, was it like 501 where the team disconnected?
Kept disconnecting,
exactly. One, wasn't it? And it was, right. So I'm not fully informed about it. But I will say, like, if that is proven, and I don't know, like, I'm not making any allegations, but if that is proven, the players involved, I think, should sit out like Shaiiko did. I mean, that is so serious to rig a game like that, and it brings into question the integrity of the whole competition. So the punishment should be serious if proven.
Yeah, this has been a developing story. I think when it broke initially, there were screenshots of conversations. Now I see the... Yeah, I believe so. And then there have been... I mean, those were also corroborated by other people. And the article has been, since then, been updated. Apparently, there have been recorded voice conversations that have also been publicly aired. So there is mounting proof that this could have taken place.
I'm not gonna speculate on it because I don't know enough, and I think that anytime that your source is a disgruntled former employee, there is a grain of salt that needs to be applied to whatever information you're receiving. And that's the most I'll say about it. Where I'll go with this, and just my little 2 cents, is any player out there that happens to watch this, be careful of what you are talking about. I saw the conversations that were leaked supposedly, and I can totally see how these players were just having a casual conversation. And in their mind, they're not saying we're fixing a match. They're literally just like talking. You know what I mean? Like, hey, you know, they're just talking. And I could totally see a player not fixing a match, but just like having a conversation with a team that they're getting ready to play and saying something that they don't intend to go that way, but it could be in hindsight viewed that way. So I would say any conversations about that. I mean, let's say this. What if, because this does actually happen. This is a known fact. What if teams get together and have gentlemen's agreements? Hey, we're not going to play Lion. Let's say Lion comes back into Pro League and a team's getting ready to play this week and they say, we're not going to play Lion. Could that be viewed as matchmaking? What if this team is really good with Lion? What if this team's really bad with Lion? Like, all those conversations, if you're a pro out there, shut it down. Don't even entertain it, because you are setting yourself up for disaster.
Yeah, I see your point. You could be 99% joking, just sort of, haha, hey, what if we throw this next match and then you let us win the next thing that isn't worth anything to you? And then, yeah, it can be taken out of context and used almost as false evidence. So yeah, absolutely agree with that. Don't even joke about doing stuff like this, because yeah, if the wrong people get their hands on that and it gets leaked or goes the wrong direction, that's serious. Obviously, it can have serious repercussions.
It's that conversation apparently happened, and then what obviously took place after that. Yeah, that would appear to corroborate it. But like, I'm a great believer, you know, like as the justice system says, you are innocent until proven guilty. Okay, so like on a hypothetical terms, if that happened, I'm not going to sit on the fence. I would be up for a ban for those individuals. That being said, like, I'm not commenting because I really don't know enough about this specific case, and I don't want, like, I'm not trying to create any knee-jerk reaction, because you should be fully and properly investigated behind the scenes, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
I've got a question.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just address one real quick here, Pete, because I'm not going to like go. I don't want a full response here, but let me just address this real quick before it skims through. It's from Spartan. He says, because a lot of people ask this, what about instead of having a special guest, we can have viewers that want to go on and say their opinion one podcast at a time? I get a lot. I don't know about you guys. I get a lot of requests from people who want to come on the podcast. Here's the thing you have to understand, guys. If you've never been in this setting before, it can be a little bit uncomfortable, and it's not something that necessarily comes natural. So for us to bring a random person on here that has no experience in front of a camera or in this setting is a really big risk for us. Okay. So just keep that in mind. I'm not saying that that'll never happen, but like, we need to be comfortable that bringing a person on here, they have some experience in this setting and are going to feel comfortable here, or else it could go disaster real quick.
Yeah, I had
2 hours is a long time for somebody to be uncomfortable.
Yeah, and not only that, I had a back and forth with a fan about this. He said, you know, you should get more of the community on, like, have that aspect of it. And I totally agree. That's a really important thing for us to do. That's why we do the Q&A, because honestly, like, say we wanted to have you, the viewers, on, we would then have to vet you, and we'd have to have that whole process. And then, like, how do we say, look, your camera kind of sucks, like, even though my camera sucks, or whatever, you know, like your dog's barking in the background all the time on your mic, like, then we have to go through that. It's kind of just not worth it, because you could spend hours and hours just like working through applications and vetting people for something that really, like, I think the Q&A is the best way of doing it. Can I
go ahead?
Yeah, go ahead.
I like this question. This was earlier from a regular viewer, the Punisher. Can you get disqualified from esports for use of steroids? So, like, can you use performance enhancing drugs? And
this is a serious question, but not necessarily for steroids, but for Adderall.
Exactly, exactly that.
This
Wasn't
is a
that
serious
something?
question.
Wasn't that in the news only maybe a few months ago that Adderall was a serious problem in certain esports?
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
What does Adderall do then?
Have you ever seen the movie Limitless?
It's
not like that, but for some people, they do say that it's night and day for them. You know what I mean? Like, as far as the amount of focus and attention and reaction speed and stuff like that, you know, it kind of takes you to the next level as far as that goes.
So some, like, college students and university students, they use that when I think I've read that, like, they're going into an exam and they need to cram, like, revision, they take Adderall, right?
Yeah.
Is that, like, some people? Okay, right.
I think it's also fatigue fighting, I believe. So people working through the night and, like you said, cramming for an exam shouldn't, but have been known to do that. I can not recommend that. In fact, the best way, if you're sitting exams, the best way to actually be as prepared as possible is to spread your preparation out over a long time and repeat. So you learn throughout the entire semester and you go back to it again and again and again, and it just cements those memories rather than trying to cram at the last moment, would be my personal recommendation from having gone through that. Don't rely on potentially risky drugs. But what are there rules around drug use?
I would say it's probably different for every title. I guess that would be an ESL thing, right?
Yeah.
It would probably be an ESL thing. Do they actually drug test? Adderall is a prescribed medicine. So if you have a prescription for it, are you allowed to take it? I don't know,
tough,
man.
isn't it?
It is.
It's like you can get testosterone replacement therapy from your doctor, but obviously in MMA, that's a massive benefit to a fighter who's like hit his late 30s and has lower testosterone than he did in his mid 20s, and he goes to the doctor, and they give it to him, and then they had to go in and ban all that because, you know. So that is interesting. You could see pee tests taking place at the next Invitational. Just random urine tests in the bathroom.
I'm getting some stuff in my chat that there's a ESIC, Esports Integrity Coalition. Now, do they have who reports to them? You know, what esports fall under their umbrella? But they do have a list of banned substances. Any unsanctioned use of these substances is considered doping. Now, I don't know what those substances are. This is just out of my chat.
There you go. This is actually in the ESL Rainbow Six Pro League rulebook. There is an entire section 6.8 on doping. And it starts off with refusing to be tested is considered doping, and punishments will be the same as for severe cases of substance abuse. List of prohibited substances and methods. So the ESL, yes, exactly, you're right. The ESIC, that's the organization that ESL refers to as well here. And in fact, there is a list of prohibited. So what have we got? Ivekio, which is amphetamine sulfate, dextroamphetamine, dexedrine, dexmethylphenidate, and more. I'm not going to read all these because they're actually getting a little bit complicated. But yeah, so there is a list of banned substances, and in fact the rule book says here, punishment: mild cases of doping will be punished with a warning and possibly a minor penalty points for the participant. Severe cases, use of drugs containing performance-enhancing substances like Adderall, will be punished with nullification of the results achieved under the influence of the substance, a ban of 1 or 2 years, forfeiture of the prize money won, as well as disqualification of the participant. If a player is found guilty of a severe case of doping only after the last match of a tournament has already been over for at least 24 hours, the player will still get a ban, but the tournament result will remain in place and there are no consequences for the team. Mild cases will not be punished at all after that time. And then it also goes on to alcohol or other psychoactive drugs. Competition manipulation comes after that. Match fixing is one of those. So yes, there you go. Under the official rulebook of the ESL, doping with performance-enhancing drugs is prohibited, and in fact, players must submit to tests when required.
Somebody in my chat was asking about THC. I would consider that the opposite of performance enhancing drugs.
I was thinking of that with alcohol as well.
Like if I was trying to manipulate the team I was getting ready to play, I would be like sliding them some edibles or something. You know what I mean? And then I would be like a sure win. You know.
I've always thought about that in main sports flanked. You know, like for example in soccer, like cocaine is like if they do a doping test and you're positive for cocaine. But, like, that's not performance enhancing, really. I mean, like, that's something they're probably doing in the club. You know, like, they're not doing a line of coke 10 minutes before they go on to play a game of football, are they? Like,
do you want to hear about alcohol? I can tell you what ESL has to say about that. To play a match,
is definitely not a performance enhancing drug.
100% isn't, and nevertheless, it says to play a match, be it online or offline, under the influence of alcohol or other psychoactive drugs, which would include THC, is strictly prohibited and may lead to severe punishment. Moderate consumption of alcohol outside the active tournament hours for a participant is permitted if not in conflict with local or national law. So you can take non-performance enhancing drugs if they are allowed where you live, as long as you're not competing under the influence.
Hey, that might be a way to bump viewership numbers. Drunk Pro League night. 1 week per season, everybody must, like, they have to take a breathalyzer before the match. They must be legally drunk in order to compete. Legally drunk. And let's
Banned from driving,
this actually goes down.
That's the threshold. You have to be so drunk that you're not allowed to drive, and then off you go. Yeah, I think that maybe one of the conflicts there is also obviously streaming rules, because there's those limitations as well. Yeah, I think actually that's fair enough. We've had our 2 hours. We've had some questions each. Thank you everyone who joined us live today. Thank you everyone who's listening at home, whether it's on the audio version or on YouTube. And yeah, we shall see you again next week. Bye for now.
see you later. Bye.